a solutions engineer. Now, Brandon is going to be joined by our own Jess Steinbach for what can only be described as what's likely to be one of the most unique presentations we've ever had on a megacast. Now, pay attention because this one is really going to be a lot of fun. So, Brandon and Jess, why don't you guys take it away?
All right, well, Brandon, I am so excited to be here with you today, and especially for this very tasty challenge because your team has challenged me to some very untasty things in the past, including some jelly bellies and some hot sauces that I still have PTSD from. But talk to me about what we're doing today, Brandon.
Yeah, so these are the three essential tools to protect remote workers, just as easy as guacamole. So today we're gonna, as a metaphor, have you make guacamole just to show how simple it could be.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you have three major ingredients to your simple solution, and I have my three main ingredients to this is a very simple guacamole. I can feel everyone shouting at me at home, but what about onions or tomatoes or other great things? But we're keeping it
Yeah.
simple today, nice and simple. And the deal with this is, Brandon, that I'm racing you, right? So you're gonna do a demo and go, or you're gonna go through the presentation and go through all the information, and I'm gonna make the guacamole. And throughout the presentation today and in follow up, anyone who signs up for a demo with Keeper Security is going to get a $25 gift certificate, which is amazing and awesome. And I love that. And if I beat you, if I can make this beautiful award winning guacamole, gourmet guacamole, before you can finish your presentation today, then
Uh-huh.
the entire audience gets $50
Oh,
just for
okay.
registering for that demo. So if
That's
I
awesome.
win, $50 going back to everyone who signs up for a demo. Do I have that right, Brandon?
Of course. Of
Yes.
course.
Okay. So I can feel all the love from everybody out there in the audience who's just pushing for that $50 scorecard. I mean, you're getting 25 no matter what, but I'm going to do my best to bring this to a $50 total for all of you. Brandon, should we I'm going to start a timer for this. Well, no, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to do what can I do? I want to do like a clapper. Okay, I'm going to clap. So you're gonna move to your next slide when I clap, and then I'm gonna start, and you're gonna start. Are you ready?
Of course. Let's go.
Cool. I like it.
All
Okay,
right.
now. Good.
Uh-huh.
Good. Go.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so right here, and first we just talk about the problem that we're trying to solve here, right? So with the advent of COVID-19, there's a lot of companies that are working from home, right? So a lot of companies adapted to the hybrid model, and a lot of people are working from home. So these companies weren't necessarily prepared at the time, so everyone's just using their own devices, everyone's off using certain kinds of things that they just, found on the internet, so on and so forth. But the problem with that is that it's not a rounded solution, right? There's a lot of different variables we have to worry about when it comes to everyone using different kinds of networks, different kinds of devices, so on and so forth. You have to worry about everything. So it expands the attack surface in the sense that if there's a vulnerability with one thing, right, it could be anything, and that can affect that one employee, and then it could spread throughout the network or throughout the company versus if everyone's using the same thing, we could just keep our eye on that one thing and we just have that one thing to worry about, right? So that's basically the variability with using different kinds of networks and stuff like that with that solution there. So we're just going to move to the next slide. We have our Keeper PAM solution that's comprised of our enterprise management as well as our secrets management and privilege management right here. So these are essentially the three ingredients that Jess right here is using with the guacamole here. Any update, Jess?
This is going really well. I'm not gonna lie to you, Brandon. I'm feeling very confident about this $50 going to everyone in our audience.
Awesome. All right, let's move to the next slide, which will be our enterprise password management. So this is basically a way to store all of your, secure credentials. You can rotate your passwords and everything like that, and you can do as much auditing as you would like to make sure you're in compliance and gives you that sort of visibility. Now, we don't call this the vault for no reason. You can actually store anything you want inside of the Keeper Vault, right? This could be PDFs, photos, files, server information, addresses, contact info, anything that you want to be secure in general. You could just put it in the vault because it's just made to be things to just secure anything that you would like to secure, right? So anything you want to put in there, you could definitely put in there, right? So moving on here, we have the secrets manager, right? So when we talked about the vault, right, the use case of putting PDFs and putting photos in there, secure credentials, that's actually the use case for a person to do it, obviously, right? They go to keepersecurity.com, they log into their vault, they use the app, they use the desktop app. However, we have the secrets manager, right? So the secrets manager is basically a fully managed cloud-based solution to secure all of your infrastructure secrets, including API keys, database credentials, so on and so forth, right? So what does that actually mean? Let's say you're developing an app, right? And in this app, you have to put some very important things, right? So this could be API keys to access certain things, so on and so forth. So instead of putting those crucial credentials inside of your program where it's vulnerable, what we can actually do is put it inside of Keeper and use the secrets management to actually connect Keeper to your application. So when your application needs to get those serious credentials, it can actually make API calls to Keeper to retrieve them. So it's basically the vault for machines, right? So you can actually use machines or any kind of software to reach inside of Keeper, get the necessary information, and get it out, right? The reason why this is necessary as well is that you'll also have, we always saw those. If I don't know if you guys remember Flappy Bird, but there was a lot of duplicate games in the App Store for Flappy Bird, right? So the reason why that happened is because someone will download the actual Flappy Bird app and see all the source code and then take that and then make variations of it. But if they actually use the Keeper Secrets Manager, they can actually protect some of that. That way, that wouldn't be possible, right? So that's just a way to do that here. And then this is the Keeper Connection Manager. But before we get into here, has anyone ever heard of Apache Guacamole? If not, we can just do a review right here, right? So with Apache Guacamole, this was developed by Mike Jumper, Frank Law, and James Milner. These are three people that came up with the software. They later donated this to the Apache Software Foundation in 2016, right? But this is basically a thing that they made here. So what this is you had Mike who, fresh out of college or while he was in college, he was working for a company, but that company had really restrictive rules, right? So you couldn't really use a company computer and log into whatever you want to log into. So Mike basically developed this software to where he can basically use a web browser to access his computer from home to do whatever he wanted to do, right? Because there was a lot of different restrictions. And you couldn't use a VPN, you couldn't change port numbers, you couldn't use those protocols, right? So Mike developed this software to do it, and it worked pretty well, right? So Mike, Frank, and James, decided to turn into Glyptodon, which is basically the enterprise version of Apache Guacamole, right? So when they turn it into Glyptodon, this is where Keeper actually comes in. We actually have our co-founders, Darren Gucciani, as well as Craig Lurie, are reaching out to the team at Apache Guacamole or Glyptodon, and they talked about an integration into Keeper's current IAM solution, right? And once they did that, we actually came up with the Keeper Connection Manager. And of course, Mike, James, and Frank are currently on the Keeper team. They're awesome people, as well as very intelligent people to work with, right? So that's what we have there when it comes to the story of how the Connection Manager came about. And we have
I'm
these.
done. I'm done. I need
Oh,
you,
awesome.
I need you to know that the folks out there have just gotten $50 when they sign up for a demo because look at this guacamole. Look how perfect that is. Ooh, look at the
Awesome.
color.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I nailed that. And for anyone out there that was freaking out watching me put salt on this, I need you to know that my salt shaker is terrible and very little comes out. So it looked like I was aggressively over salting, but it's actually quite nice. That's important.
That's great. Yeah. So with that $50, guys, you could probably, go to Chipotle, get two burrito bowls, maybe some
Mm-hmm.
chips with the guac. Yeah. So that's what we could do there. But yeah. So looks like Jess won that $50. That's great. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we could continue here with this presentation. So with the connection manager, what's so special about it? Can I use something else? Right. So you probably could, but you'll miss out on certain features. Right. So we actually connect to these standard protocols. Right. So RDP, VNC, SSH, Kubernetes, MySQL, Postgres. So basically, there's a lot of flexibility there when it comes to what we can connect to. But are these protocols important, right? So we can see that with our next one, right? So it's because with the connection manager, it's actually a clientless remote desktop gateway. So what that means is for other companies, let's say you have 1,000 machines that you want to connect to remotely. That's 1,000 things you have to download on those machines in order for it to receive the actual connection. However, right, with the actual, connection manager here, the Keeper connection manager, we actually don't need an agent, right? We're just connecting to the protocol that already exists on the machine right out of the bat, right? So if it's Windows, typically RDP will be on it, so we can just connect through RDP, right? If you have, Linux, typically SSH could work as well, so on and so forth. So it basically reduces the hassle that companies have to go through in basically just downloading a bunch of different agents on different machines. And even when you have to update those agents, it's basically a nightmare unless you have something in place to do it all together. But with our agentless solution, it basically mitigate all of those things there, right? So definitely easy. And also, you can use this through a web browser, right? So it's very easy to access, right? If you have something too complicated, there's no way your end users are going to actually utilize it. So it's just easy. They just go to a web browser, type in a URL, right? That's, optimal for their connection. Once they go through, they sign in, authenticate, and then they have access to their connections. And they can use it on any device, right? So they can use it on their laptop, iPhone, iPad, anywhere they want to use it, they could definitely use it there. And of course, everyone likes easy. That's how people actually use applications, right? So that's basically it there. And right here, there's a long list of things that we can actually do here. We have file transfer, switching connections, multitasking with tile connections, print to PDF, screen sharing, session shadowing, things like that. You could zoom in. Mobile, like I said before, right there, and of course, you can touch the screen and do that. We have audio actual settings here, and then we have screen recording config, and then we also have an integration with the secrets manager, right? So what does that actually mean? Of course, the connection manager is a software. So that would mean that if it were to connect to the Vault, it would have to use the secrets manager. So what's special about this is that let's say you have a server credential that you would like to basically rotate. Yeah, you could do that with the secrets manager. But basically, if that updates on the secrets manager side, how does that update on the connection manager side? Well, the thing is, we actually have an integration between the two. So if a server actually updates on the secrets manager side, it automatically syncs to the connection manager. So you can always log into it, even if the password is constantly changing, which makes it very secure to secure all of your infrastructure on the connection manager side. But yeah, with that being said, that kind of concludes the demo, and everyone gets a $50 gift card. Yeah, so I am Brandon from Keeper, right? And after this call, I'm gonna get some guacamole myself. But with that being said, are there any questions?
Yeah, Brandon, honestly, I feel like I'm restraining from just sitting here and eating guacamole for the next few minutes because this is so good and now it's just in front of me. And everyone at home is probably very upset with us for making them. Everyone needs to go out for tacos now and guacamole. And that's your challenge from Keeper Security. That's what you can do
Definitely.
with your $50 gift card. You can go spend
Yeah,
that on avocados. That'll get you like 2 avocados, right?
yeah. That's expensive avocados. Yeah,
Well, Brandon, I must say your team is totally forgiven for making me eat the hot sauces and the jelly bellies because this right here, this is the bar that I want. I
I
next
know, right?
next we'll do like steak and brandy nights, please. Steak and bourbon challenges would be
That would
great
be great.
if we
That
could
would be
add
great.
that into your repertoire. Okay, I do want to get to a few questions. We are a little short on time, so we're going to get to as many as we can. But before we wrap up and I go eat all this guacamole, um, we got a question from the audience wondering if you could give a little bit more information on what you think makes Keeper Security stand out. What are the key uniques for somebody that might be sorting between a few different vendors?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the unique things I would say is how Keeper just protects your data in general, right?
Mm,
So basically, when you're storing data in any other solution, they do encrypt it, but they encrypt basically like at the vault level or just the overall level, right? So a cyber criminal, they just basically bypass that vault encryption and they see everything in clear text. But what's unique to Keeper is that they encrypt everything on a record level. So not only does a cyber criminal need to break down that vault encryption, they would have to decrypt every single record that they want access to in order to get that information. So that level of security really does reduce the blast radius a lot, and that's something I really do like about Keeper there.
Great, good answer. I think that, and that really does help because I think there's a lot of folks out there that, they're in those research phases. Speaking of which, this is an interesting one, and maybe it dovetails on to the answer you just gave us. But we have someone in the audience who it sounds like they have to make an argument to their team. They have to convince the higher ups to invest in anytime they're looking at a new solution. So, is there a specific ROI or kind of argument that you would give them to bring to their leadership team in terms of why Keeper Security?
Yeah, definitely. So, one of the things that basically with Keeper is that just makes the end user experience move a lot smoother, right? So, with security, there's this age old battle of the more secure something is, the less convenient it is, and the more convenient something is, the less secure it is. But Keeper really does try hard to make the balance as optimal as possible. And I really do think we achieve that, right? So, it's one of those solutions where, once you log in, it's highly encrypted, but you're still not like waiting a long time to get inside your vault. It decrypts really fast. You're logging into all your credentials. We have the browser extension to help you out. We're supported on many different platforms, mobile for you on the go. And then, we also have the desktop application. We have a CLI for our more complicated folks out there. So we're very flexible, very convenient as much as possible. Our
Mm.
support is great. We have, lines and, lines that are open as well as email support. You can message anytime you run into anything. We can definitely hop on a call with someone like me or anybody else on my team, right? So those are the things I would say is that we really do balance security and convenience very well.
Ooh, that's great because we did get a couple of questions about the size of organization or if there's specific industries that this may or may not work for. And what I'm hearing from you is that you'll kind of work with, and so even like in a smaller team where they don't have maybe as many of the human resources to kind of implement and manage, your team can kind of help and support. So you don't have to be a giant enterprise to work with Keeper Security.
Absolutely, right? We support all different sizes of companies.
Awesome. Okay. I always like to hear that. It's very hard, I must say, to be focusing on these questions when I'm sitting here next to this lovely bowl of guacamole, which doesn't look that appetizing. I should have brought like a paper towel to like clear off the outside so I could have made this nice show. Also, handy dandy trick for anyone who doesn't already do this. If you put the pit back in your guacamole, it keeps it green longer.
Oh,
That's
that's a nice
my
tip there.
my fun tip for all of you out there: put the pit back in your guacamole, and it adds a nice little weird garnish, and also keeps your guacamole green. Anyways, let's get back to the audience here. Are there any interesting use cases that you would want to share? Something that you found kind of intriguing or interesting, kind of seen as a case study?
Yeah, definitely. So, one of our newer use cases, I would say, is that, with Keeper, we actually support passkeys now. So basically, with typical use of passkeys, you can store it on your phone or on your laptop or things like that. But the problem is that it's actually stored in that system only, right? So if you wanted to, move it to a different device or anything like that, it may be troublesome. Even if you wanted to temporarily give access to your account to somebody else, that's a hassle, right? But with Keeper, just like how you can share credentials, you can store that passkey inside of Keeper and actually share it with your colleagues, so on and so forth. That way you won't lose it. And of course, with Keeper, we do have the recovery phrase, right? So just in case if you forget that password, you can always get in with that recovery phrase. Same thing with like a crypto wallet, right? The 24 words. But yeah, I would say the passkeys is definitely a very useful use case these days.
That's cool. Okay, well, we're getting close to the end of our time here, Brendan, which means I get to go eat my guacamole very soon. But before we didn't think about this, that I was gonna make the guacamole and then have to sit next to it while it hangs out and just looks great. Ugh,
Yeah,
this
definitely.
this has been a real test of my willpower, I must say, team. Okay, so just kind of coming up towards the end here, for somebody out there that is wanting to get started and kind of jump in with Keeper Security, I'd love for you to give them a little bit of information on how to get started. And I'm also going to ask you to kind of, if you had sort of one call to action or one takeaway that you wanted everyone in the audience to be thinking about from this presentation, what would that be? So, what's your one key takeaway? And then what should they do about it to get started?
Yeah, definitely. Right. So, how to get started on Keeper? We could just go on keepersecurity.com if you want to use it on your uh, you want to use it on your laptop there, or you can actually download the app. Right. We have an app as well to store all of your passwords there. Right. So very easy to get started, not convoluted or anything like that. You can just set up an account and you're good to go. Right. Of course, if you're a business, you could definitely go on our website and request a demo. Right, to get one there for your enterprise, so on and so forth, and we'll take care of you from there. But yeah, when it comes to one takeaway I'll give to the audience is that I would say cybersecurity in general, or like a solution like Keeper, is kind of like flood insurance. We never really think of getting it until something happens, and it's like, okay, it would be nice to have that. So it's good to be ahead of the ball, get this going and then protect your credentials ahead of time, because it's rather, good to have it ahead of time instead of waiting for something to happen and then we take action. So that's one thing I'll do as a takeaway.
That's a great takeaway. And Brendan, I want to say I really enjoyed, genuinely enjoyed this presentation and had a lot of fun. I did not think to bring any cleanup implements, so I am covered in lime juice, a little bit of avocado. I also squirted lime juice all over my workstation. So I think it's clear to me and fair to say that I will never be a part of Top Chef and should be nowhere near Gordon Ramsay. However, I do think that we've all learned a little bit of something about keeper security and gotten a really clear idea of how that solution might work for us. And that has been a lot of fun, Brendan. So I want to thank you very much for being here with us today and for this
Of
this
course.
wonderful Jelly Belly and hot sauce free challenge. Thank you so much for that.
Of course. Awesome.
Oh, and to everyone out there, don't forget to sign up for the demo, right?
Yeah,
I almost I got so distracted by the guacamole. Brandon, demo. So if you use that QR code there on your screen, you can go sign up for that demo. And now because the great and wonderful Chef Jess has completed the guacamole, you all get $50 instead of 25. So $50 if you sign up for a demo. This is a very exciting offer. So go get that 50, go get the demo, go get the $50, and then go get your own avocados. And that is your key takeaway from this presentation today. Brandon, thank you so much for being here with us.
absolutely. Absolutely. I enjoyed my time here.